Welcome to the Real Estate Jam Session. We've got a great one today. Today, we're going to talk about how to create and build generational wealth. And for this, I've got Yemani Mason. Yemani's I guess a serial entrepreneur is what I should call you. He started up Secure the Funding a couple years ago. It's a residential mortgage company. And he has I guess a social media management platform called MBC Media. And he's also a published author of Lion Mentality. It's going to be coming out soon, or is it out now?
So we actually published it last year.
Okay.
We pulled it off shelves because we're actually coming out with a 2.0 version, so which is going to be out probably sometime by the end of Q1.
Okay. All right. When you get that, send me the link. I'll put it on this video so everybody can go. They'll know how to find you.
Yeah, it's on Amazon right now, but like I said, we're just out of stock.
Okay.
I'm out with the new version, but yeah, I'll send you the link either way.
Very cool. Thank you. So, Imani, kind of tell me, we all we're working to retire, right? That's our goal. We're working to really retire, and our family is going to be comfortable for the future. Tell me, I guess, let's start with how you got your start, and then we'll go from there.
So, particularly in the mortgage industry, it's actually funny. It's a funny story, but I'll go back further than that. So my background is actually in tech and online marketing, right?
Okay.
I worked for a lot of big tech companies back in even starting in college. I worked for BlackBerry at a time when BlackBerry was like the number one smartphone.
You're too young for BlackBerry, aren't you? Jesus.
It
was my favorite phone.
Yeah, it was. Listen, I had a BlackBerry from like 04 or 05 all the way up until like pretty much when I worked there, and I saw the whole come down. So I actually worked for a BlackBerry in 2011. Literally, I saw their stock for the 1 year that I was there. I saw their stock probably drop by like, I don't know, 90% in 1 year, because that was when Android came out and iPhone came out. They fired their two co-CEOs that owned the company and started the company. It was a hot mess, to say the least. But yeah, I was at BlackBerry to watch the end.
I loved it. What were you doing there?
So I was doing marketing. We were running a campaign here in the South Florida area for their tablet that they came out with. They came out with a BlackBerry tablet and a new smartphone, which they were trying to compete with the iPhone with the touchscreen stuff. And I mean, their OS was just subpar compared to like iOS and Android. So it never really hit, but we tried.
We went from tech to residential real estate.
Yeah,
that's a big jump.
Yep. So I went from BlackBerry. I actually worked for Google for a little bit.
Okay.
I worked on the Chrome OS project with Google, rolling that out. That was when it was like top secret. They hadn't even announced it yet. This was like a year before, when like literally before they came out with the Chromebook. Right now, Chromebook is like everywhere. But yeah, I worked for Google for a while. Funny story there is, I actually worked for Google, and the reason why I got fired from Google is because at one of the secret events that they put on, where they hosted in Nevada at like some big resort where we were the only ones there, I shared one of the pictures with like one of the executives on my Google Plus, because that was when they had Google Plus, and they were trying to like incentivize everybody to use Google Plus because they were trying to compete with Facebook and Twitter and all these social medias. And I shared it in my Google Plus account, but it happened to be public, like a public folder. So they were like, I signed some NDA. They're like, oh, you breached your NDA. But that was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. Like literally getting fired from Google was the best thing that ever happened, like for me, because it forced me into entrepreneurship. Because at the time I had a side hustle or a side gig, whatever you would call it, doing social media marketing. And this was back when like YouTube was like the biggest social media, right? So we were doing YouTube promotion, right? Helping people start channels and build, thousands of followers. Instagram was kind of just popping up like a little bit. Like this is back in 2012 now that I'm talking, 2012 going to 2013. So Instagram had kind of just started, right? Twitter was already there, Facebook, of course. So there was a huge demand for this because you had all these new platforms coming out and nobody really knew much about social media marketing, especially like, big existing businesses. So we kind of carved out a niche for ourselves, kind of helping people navigate that, first wave of like social media marketing, right? Or I guess you would say 2.0, right? Because I guess MySpace and that era would be like 1.0. So, so yeah, I did that for a few years, worked with, some quite large businesses, small to medium sized businesses as well, publicly traded companies, private companies, so on and so forth. And then I just got tired of like being in that industry. I kind of got burnt out, and I kind of felt like I wasn't really helping people, like I was helping rich people get richer, but I wasn't like really helping like the community, like I wasn't really doing something that fulfilled me inside. So I decided at that point to walk away from the business, which was like a multi-million-dollar business at the time, and pretty much start a startup, which was called Bestmunity, where I was doing real estate crowdfunding, right? And the whole concept was pretty much to take the Section 8 of the Jobs Act that Obama had passed, where it allowed private placement deals, right, to be crowdfunded by non-accredited investors, right? So the whole concept behind it was to take hard money, right, private money loans, where you're able to see returns of upwards of 10 to 15%, right? Originate those loans, right? Collect the origination fees as the platform, and then crowdfund out the actual security note to where people could now invest as little as $500 to $1,000. But instead of putting it in the bank where they'd only receive 0.01%, they could actually put it into just as secure of a vehicle, which is backed by real estate, right? Where the LTVs were super low, and now make to 15% on their money. Granted, I was basically bootstrapping it. I ran into a chicken and egg problem, but out of that, I ended up getting my loan originator license, because in order to do that, you have to have a loan officer, right, or originate loans. So that's how I ended up getting into this industry by accident, essentially.
Yeah, that's a great way, though. I mean, you got the background, and now you're doing it. Your mortgage company's been around for a couple of years now, right? Year and a half.
So no, we just started in 2021.
Okay.
Like literally less than a year ago.
Okay.
So yeah, we're in pretty much early stage right now, kind of in the growing pain stage.
You're just a natural born entrepreneur, the way it sounds. I mean, I think the best thing I'm hearing is that you had experience with the big companies, that big institutional, and now you're out there being an entrepreneur, so you can see how to build the platform and what is wasting your time. So now let's look down the road. I'm 22, 23 years old, watching YouTube videos, looking for some guidance. How do I build my generational wealth? What do I need to start doing now?
So the easiest way for people to build generational wealth, right? The number one way that people become millionaires is by owning real estate, right?
Yeah.
Like literally, we've seen what happened in the last year in the market, right? If you would have bought your first home, even right after COVID in 2020, right? Mm-hmm. Because there was still blood in the streets, right? And they, as they say, when there's blood in the streets, that's when it's time to buy, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you would have bought like at the beginning of COVID, like literally like here in South Florida, you would have been doubled what your initial purchase price was, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to think of it like this. Let's say you bought a house for $300,000, right? And I can actually tell you this from learning it the hard way. I sold the property right before COVID for $365,000. That I know for a fact right now is worth upwards of $600,000 that I sold in August of 2019, right? Which was a home that we bought for $180,000. So I actually doubled my money because we bought it right out of the recession in 2012. And granted, I put down less than $15,000. So you got to think, I doubled my money in less than 7 years at the time, 2012 to 2019. I doubled my money from my initial purchase price. But think about the return on my investment from what I actually put up.
Yeah.
Right. Because mind you, I was going to have to live somewhere anyways, pay rent somewhere. So it's not like I lost the mortgage payments. Right.
Yeah.
It actually lowered my principal balance. So when you think of stuff like that now, like, okay, I could have bought a $300,000 house during the start of COVID. You put down 3%, plus maybe another 3% for closing costs. So you're talking about 6% off of 300,000, right? We're talking about now what, $21,000, right? That would have been your initial investment. That same house would have been worth $600,000 now. You're sitting on $300,000 worth of equity off of a $21,000 investment. I don't know. You do the math. What's the return on investment?
If I was good at math, I would, but I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty good at math, but that's like thousands, like tens of thousands of percentage worth of return on investment.
Oh no, I'm a firm believer in real estate. I think when, you know, and I wished I would have started younger with buying more and more real estate, you know, but I always had the problem with the down payment. And, you know, that's something I know the VA is something, you know, they can go get all of their, they can get their money given to them, but I think the payments are a little bit higher. I'm not sure how that really works.
Well, no,
residential.
VA is a fantastic program.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to get in. But if I'm younger, I mean, it's, you know, how do I go buy that first house? You know, I'm not sure I would have at 22, 24 years old, $15,000 laying around, because that really wasn't my mindset at the time, to be honest with you. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well, are you a veteran?
No, I'm not.
Well, okay. I was gonna say, well, because if you were a veteran, then yeah, you definitely wouldn't need that amount.
Yeah, it's something hindsight, right? I didn't really even think about it back then. I was too busy thinking where I was going to be over the weekend. But now, do you advise for people to do a combination of stocks and real estate, or are you mostly just in real estate?
So I'll say this: I'm mostly in real estate. I do have, you know, a stock portfolio. I do have a crypto portfolio. I have an art portfolio as well.
Okay.
Right? But going back to your point that you just made, right? There's programs right now that we can do 100% financing FHA that anybody can qualify for. Now, you don't even have to be a first-time home buyer, right? That's a program that we just rolled out a few months ago. So you don't even need to have a down payment, right?
Right.
And if you can get the seller to pay for your closing costs, then literally you could come to the closing table with pretty much your appraisal money and maybe whatever your earnest money deposit was. What are we talking about? Maybe $2,000, $2,500.
Yeah.
So it's not like you need a lot of money if you're savvy enough, right?
Yeah.
And even still, on top of those 100% financing programs, you have down payment assistance programs. So if you don't make like, you know, 6 figures a year, right, which is probably not a lot of people, most likely you may qualify for a down payment assistance program depending on the size of your household and your annual household income. And that's another source of money that could cover your closing costs or cover both your closing costs and your down payment, depending on the program. Like we have a fantastic program here in Miami-Dade County, probably like the best program in the nation, in my opinion, where like pretty much anybody can qualify and they'll give you up to $12,000, like a blank check, right? As long as you live in the house for 10 years, you never have to repay back a penny. And if you move and sell or refinance and pull cash out, you just have to pay back the 12 grand they gave you at 0% interest.
Oh.
So, you know,
I didn't know that you could do that.
Yep.
Now, are you finding now you're in a hot market? So are you able to find sellers that will help pay the closing costs right now, or are they just saying no, not now? I know there's other parts of the country, yes, but you just happen to be in a hot market right now.
Yeah, in this market right now, it's tough. You know, it's tough. Probably, I would say the only way that you're going to get your closing costs paid for by a seller is if it's your mama.
Yeah, exactly. And that's in Nebraska, so I don't think I want to live there right now. Right? Not in the middle of winter.
Unless they're gifting you the equity in their house, right?
Yeah,
but you can do that, right?
That'd be the way to go. Now, okay, so that's on residential homes. Do you advise a lot of younger people want to start investing real estate investments? REITs. How do you want them? How would you like to see them start? We all have to. You should build a platform, right? I mean, if you could, I'd like to see everybody start with STNL properties around the country, but you got to have a good amount of money. But what do you think? Real estate investment trusts? How should they, if they don't have that capital, they could put 500, 1,000 into a real estate investment trust or something like that? Is something that you advise?
Yeah, REITs are good. Obviously, like I'm not an expert in that field, right? My expertise is residential real estate, so
yeah.
There's a plethora of opportunities. I mean, real estate crowdfunding is still around, right? Like it didn't take off for me and the company that I had created at the time, but you have other companies right now that are successfully doing that. So there's a plethora of different options out there for being able to get into real estate. I mean, even now, look at the rise of NFTs. They're selling
Yeah.
shares in properties through NFTs right now, which is like a
Right.
whole nother revolution within itself, you know.
Yeah.
And you could even buy like virtual land now, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. We did a show on this a few weeks ago with a friend of mine, and we were talking about it. And right now there's speculation and there's investing, right? Right, investors are out there. They do the due diligence, really kind of have an idea where the property's going and the community is going, where their money's going to be. NFTs are kind of speculating right now but with risk comes reward, right? So, there's no data to really be purchasing these things off of yet. I think there will be, but right now, but yeah, there's opportunity to make money there, and you will learn. That's for damn sure.
High risk, high reward.
It's an incredible change in the industry, and it's amazing. You sit and listen to younger people talking about it, how hyped they are on it. You talk to older people, oh, it's never going to take off, and but it's something that I'm finding to be very, very interesting, and I'm anxious to see how it plays out. Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer in residential real estate, owning your home. I mean, it's a friend of mine in Texas. And I told you the story briefly before. They were gonna COVID hit. They thought they were at the top of the market because everybody's moving to Texas. Sold their house, and now they're going. Wait a second. They were gonna rent for about a year and a half when COVID passed, right? And now, almost 2 years later, the properties have gone up 22%, and they can't afford to go back in. So they're going to be in an apartment for a while. And I don't know that Dallas is, was really going to. It's got a lot going on, but so I'm a firm believer in your home, in getting that paid, using that right, and then investments. I just think so. You can't afford to do a home, real estate investment trust is a good way to crowdfunding. Do they still? I haven't been around the crowdfunding for. Do you still have to be not a registered investor, accredited investor before you can?
So that was the whole point of the Jobs Act, right?
Yeah.
I think it was Title II, Title III. Like I said, this is like 5 years ago now. So
right.
I don't remember exactly what part of the Jobs Act created it, but it was one of the titles in the Jobs Act that allowed these private placement deals to be open to non-accredited investors, which if people are not sure what an accredited investor is, you either have to have $1 million net worth, or you have to make over, I think, $250,000 a year in income. Yeah. I think as a married couple, maybe the threshold is a little bit higher.
Right.
But like going back to what you just said, Joe, even just investing in residential real estate, you could eventually convert that into an investment property. Like a lot of people don't realize that. Like our first home, the home that I told you that we sold, we were renting that out for like 4 or 5 years after we sold it, netting like $1,000 a month in rental income, while it's continued to appreciate in value, right? And so there's house hacks like that people aren't even aware of. Like, for instance, with FHA, you can get up to 4 units. And right now with the loan limits that just increased on FHA, you can actually go up to like $1 million on a fourplex FHA, which you could probably find a decent fourplex in a good market for $1 million right now. I mean, that's not unrealistic, right? Maybe not in the best area, but probably in an area that's probably gentrifying or up and coming, where your values are going to appreciate. You only got to live in 1 unit. Technically speaking, you could actually cash flow on the property while you're living there, right? Because your mortgage ain't going to be probably more than like, I don't know, $6,000 on $1 million mortgage, maybe a little bit more. Right now, rents in Miami is at least $2,000 per unit for a decent, like 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, right? Yeah. Or higher. So, you rent out 3 of the units, you live in 1, your mortgage is $6,000, you're collecting $6,000 in rental income, you're living rent free. Yeah. While the value is appreciating. And not only that, but when you move, you can keep that property, convert it into a full investment property, and then buy another property, conventional, with only 5% down. Yeah. And take the equity out of that to go buy the next property. And you can continue to do that every year or every 2-3 years as you continue to grow and move through life and have children and babies, and you need more space, and you're always going to need somewhere to live. So you just continue to piggyback off that first property. And by the time you look at it in 20 years, you own 5 properties because you moved 5 times throughout your life. And in 30 years from now, all 5 of those properties are paid off. They're cash flowing, right? They've appreciated in value. You're probably a multi-millionaire just based off.
Don't even realize it.
And you didn't do anything except just move, which you were going to do anyways if you were renting.
Yeah. No, I'm a firm believer. You'd be surprised, Imani, about how some even sophisticated investors, but they're not necessarily in real estate, their stock market or tech or something, but they don't realize that if they move out of their, they've been in this home for a few years, they move out of their home, lease it back out. I don't know what the time frame is. I don't know if it's 12 or 24 months. It's now an investment property. You can exchange that property into, it's tax-free exchange.
1031. Yep.
Yeah, 1031 tax-free exchange. And it's just a great way to build your wealth. It's just forget about that property, lease it out. And another thing that I've heard about in areas like yours here in Southern California, along the coast, is people buying 3 and 4 units, and then they're renting a couple of them out, and then they're Airbnb-ing one of them out. Yeah, they're making so much cash.
Oh yeah, now you just 5x your rental.
Yeah. So I think
now you went from getting $2,000 a unit to making probably like $8,000 a unit by short-term rent. Now you're cash flowing like crazy.
Yeah.
But that's not passive income. That's more active.
Yeah, that's more active. You're dealing with that almost on a daily basis, unless you get a management company to handle it, and then you gotta watch that.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're gonna give up a percentage. You're gonna give up probably 20% for that.
Make sure it's all getting done right. And I just think there's a lot of ways to, once you get into a house, to add revenue. I mean, if you get a house and you get a big enough lot, you add another property on the back that you could be leasing out. There's, here in California, they're passing several, since housing is such a shortage here, you can rent out your back house now, and you can build another one on a smaller lot.
Tiny home.
To kind of ease the housing. So, you just got to get creative when you get into these homes.
Yep. I actually just built a little tiny home in my backyard. I'll see if I can show you a picture on my phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it cost me like maybe $10,000 to build. Right. I'm not going to rent it out. I'm going to use it more like a pool house, but literally, like, you could sell these tiny homes right now in my market for like $100,000, and it cost me $10,000 to build, and it looks beautiful.
Oh, that looks very nice. Yeah. That looks very nice. Yeah. And, what could you rent that out for? I mean, that's the thing is, if you've got if you're Airbnb that, the ocean's a few blocks away, you're printing money.
Yeah,
literally, I could. You paid that back.
I mean, I'm like a mile from the ocean, so I probably could if I put a bathroom in there, right? But I don't want to deal with like getting the permits of running water.
No, Imani. What you not want to do is tell your wife this is the game plan. That's what you're not wanting to do.
Exactly. That's straight out of our backyard, right?
So for about that pool house, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to Airbnb it for a while so I can pay for a pool. I don't know how she'll buy it for it, but yeah, Yemani, these are a lot of great ideas. I think in the end is when people want to build generational wealth, they need to be looking long term, right? Yep. You can't be. You've got your home. You've got your investments. You really got to be thinking long term. And there's so many avenues that people like you. And I'm going to put your contact information down below in the video. They can reach out to you and really just brainstorm with you. And there's a lot of people that will mentor younger people on how to build this, because I think there's a lot of opportunity. They just don't know it. And if you go down that rabbit hole on the internet, you can be there all day and not getting right information. So
let's be on those Reddit boards, looking at game and all these little penny stocks and these meme coins, and that's great too, because the Opportunity Zone Act, right, that came out with with the tax law that Trump passed. I forget the name of it. But with the Opportunity Zone, if you have appreciated stocks, right, or maybe even crypto, right, which is a lot of people right now, right, because the market's gone crazy in the last few years, you can take out the capital gains, and instead of paying capital gains tax, invest it into real estate, which I'm probably sure you're a lot more familiar with this part of the business, right? And just keep it in there for 10 years and you never pay capital gains tax.
Yeah, exactly. And you're good with it. So there's a lot of opportunities. And that's why, you coming on today and really talking to us about this is priceless. And I know we're getting a little long in the tooth, so I'll let you go. I know you're busy, but I appreciate you coming on today, Yemani. And thank you for all this advice. Much appreciated. For those of you watching, thank you for watching today. If you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe and make sure you like this video as well. Yemani, Thank you. I appreciate it. I will put your contact information down below so they might reach out to you, or they can reach out to me and I'll connect you. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to host me. Thank you for being a great man that you are, Joe. And
Thank you.
it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.